So I'm back, and today we are going to take a look at Transformers Armada Deluxe Class Optimus Prime. And there he is in his truck mode. He does come with Minicon here. Overrun, I believe his name is. And then there was the Nemesis version of this, and it was Run Over, which is cool. But so he does come with a little Minicon. And he is a semi-truck. This is just the cab. The port does work with the larger ones. I think it was a Supreme class, but it does work with his trailer if you want it to. But he can't combine with the trailer, so. So yeah, it was pretty cool that they released the really large version of him. That when I was growing up, you know, me and my brother were sitting there like, he's too big. We don't want him. He's too big. And then we found out that they released the deluxe version, and we got him, and we thought he was just about the perfect size at the time. And then later on, I did get the bigger version and realized that this guy's actually a lot superior because he doesn't have the gimmick of combining with the trailer. So yeah, so like I said, he does roll fairly well. You can see some of the tires don't always roll. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that back tire, this one right here, sometimes just has a problem rolling. But I mean, he still rolls very smoothly. It's just a matter of all the tires touching the ground at the same time, I guess. Anyway, so the Minicon, there's the Minicon port on the back. He can plug in to the top of Optimus there. You can also flip this little back wing down, and then there's a 5mm port, which you can plug into right back here. He's got one porthole here. You can just plug him in, and there you go. Yeah. We'll set the Minicon off the side. My only complaint on the truck mode is that the arms, I mean, they do have pegs here that peg into the sides. And you peg them in, but they don't like to hold very well. So they just kind of come out pretty easily. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll transform the Minicon first. So this is his gun or his plane mode, and then to transform him, you flip the wings back like so. Flip them over like this, and then the arms just kind of peg in. There's little pegs there. They'll peg into these two little holes. So you unpeg those, and then they rotate out, and then you can take his cone and flip it down. And he does have a landing gear that flips out on the front. Excuse me. So the back wheels do roll slightly. The front one doesn't, so there's no purpose for them to roll. But yeah. And then split his legs. And there you go. Nothing at the head. The arms do rotate up and down, but they do get hindered by his own shoulders. So they only can go up about that bit forward. And then they can rotate all the way around. Nothing at the waist. Legs can only go in and out. Nothing at the knee, nothing at the foot. So he's pretty limited. He's just a little small guy, so don't expect too much from them. And then for Optimus himself, to transform him, what you want to do is first you pull the legs down, like so. Split the legs, flip down the feet, and there's your bottom half. Already done. And then you take this grill section here and it unpegs. There's two pegs that it plugs here and here. So just unpeg that, fold that down and it just kind of collapses in. That forms his chest. Rotate the arms down and then you can slide the wrist guards up. And I did glue the these panels on. I do highly recommend doing that because they do have a tendency of falling off really easily if you don't. And then you take this whole assembly up here and it rotates out and then down to form his shoulder. Do the same thing over here. And there you have Armada Optimus Prime Deluxe class in robot mode. And he's pretty cool. I really, really dig him. He does have, I'll show this off real quick, some sort of stupid Minicon gimmick here. You plug the Minicon into his back. Just try and get everything out of the way. Plug it into the back here, and then you can just slide this up and down, and that's it. That's all he does. It's pretty stupid. So, but yeah, he himself is pretty cool. For posability, his head is on a ball joint, so it gets a great range of motion there. Absolutely incredible the way they cut that. It goes pretty much everywhere you need it to go. Arms can move up and down, and in and out. Elbows are on a side cut ball joint, so they can kind of fold in if you need to give them pretty cool action poses there. There's also a hinge at the elbow, so he does get the rotation because the ball joint, and he's got the elbow bend. Nothing at the hand. Waist swivels. Legs go up about that far due to this molded in detail right there, because it gets caught. I don't know if you can see that, but it gets caught up there and will not go any further. They do go back quite a ways. There's a bend at the knee, swivels at the thigh, and the foot does have an ankle tilt or ankle swivel, I guess. And then there's a tiny bit of give for ankle tilt. So, and then you can take the Minicon here and just turn them back mostly to plane mode. And then what you want to do is flip this handle down, and then I like to flip the wings up, and then you can take this and plug it into his hand, and now he's got a gun. And then it works. So I mean, it's not the greatest. I mean, it is just another target master essentially. So anyway, for size comparison, here he is next to the Seeker mold. He comes up a little bit taller than Thundercracker here, but you could tell he's got a lot more bulk to him. And Thundercracker's got those wings, so that makes him pretty wide. But Optimus is almost as wide as him with just his shoulders. Line them up. That's how much difference there is right there when they're lined up. So it's not that much. So yeah. And now I'm going to show you guys a neat little trick, because there's two ways to fix the legs. Because like I said, they can only go up that far. You can either get in there with a razor blade and shave that off. It's going to take you a long time because it's really hard plastic. The other option to do is if you take the leg and just pull it off. Pull this leg off. Set him off to the side. Take your screwdriver, and what you want to do is just go in to the bottom section. Don't try to do the top section because it's screwed in there and it's pinned in there, so that won't work. But you just come into the bottom section, unscrew the legs, like so. Open that up, and then you take this hip piece, and we'll set that off to the side, and set the legs off to the side. You want to do the same thing to the other side. And I like to take the screws most of the way out, but not all the way, so that they, for the most part, stay where they are, so you know which one goes where. And then you go back to the first leg we worked on, put the foot back where it was, and you take the leg piece here, and you want to make sure that the knee, because I didn't do this when I was undoing it earlier, but you want to make sure the knee is pointing backwards so that it has that knee bend to it. Otherwise, it's not going to lock into place properly, and you won't be able to. You'll lose the knee articulation to gain hip articulation. So that's kind of a step backwards, I think. So collapse the leg up, screw it back in, it's a very simple fix, and then you're not destroying the figure. You know, I mean, if you shave it down, you know, somebody, and you sold it, somebody might get upset with you that there's something wrong with him. So, this way. Plug this back in, just like so. Screw things back together. I always try to find fixes for my Transformers that don't require permanent damage, and this, as you can see, is not doing any permanent damage. We're just flipping parts. And there you have his legs done. And then it's just a simple matter of plugging them back on. And the biggest thing that you lose is the detail in the front of the hips, which, I mean, who cares? In cab mode here, you know, they do stick out a little bit more, but it still locks down pretty flush. So, I mean, you can't tell on that portion. And now, so his leg can only go back a little bit now, but he can bend all the way up to there. And before it was about here. So now he's got almost full bend on that knee, which is a much improvement than it originally had. So he can actually get into more dynamic poses this way. And because of his feet and the fact that he's a pretty stable guy to begin with, I mean, he can really get into some great poses. I really love this figure. It's a great figure. I do recommend, you know, gluing this piece on and then getting the hips fixed. Before Classics Prime, this was by far my favorite Optimus Prime. I mean, G1 was great and all, but he's not nearly posable. I mean, he's a brick. And as such, you know, this thing is also, what, 12 years old now? So that's why, and I've had this particular one for 12 years. And you can see that, like, the wrist armor over here is a little loose. But, yeah, you put the gun in there, that'll hold it in place for the most part. But yeah, he's a great figure. I absolutely love this guy. I will, you know, I keep going back and forth on my Nemesis Prime, but I'll probably pick up the Nemesis Prime version of him and use that as my Nemesis Prime from now on. Or pick up the Ultra Magnus version of him, give him some wings, and that'll be my Nova Prime from now on. Because it's a great mold. It really is. It's amazing mold. And like I said before, Classics Prime, this was my definitive Prime. And speaking of Classics Prime, let's get him in here so you can see how they stack up together. You know, I mean, I wish they would have used this mold for Orion. You know, give him a different head. And, you know, the Orion packs that they just released. I think that would have been great. And, you know, he can hold Optimus's gun too. So, I mean, I love this. You know, he does have his flaws, as I pointed out. The wrist blasters, for one. I can't show you how to fix those, but, I mean, you just throw a little super glue on there and they're good to go. And then the hip joints, which I did show you. Now, because of that, I can't give him a full 10 out of 10 like I would want to. Instead, I'm going to give him I'll give him an 8 out of 10. I think he's a really solid figure. I mean, I know he's not G1 enough for a lot of people, but for me, this was as close as I could get for a long time. You know, this guy came out in 2007, so for 5 years, this guy was prime on my shelf. And then it was replaced by him. But, I mean, ultimately, this guy is just, he's great. He's got a little bit of back kibble. I mean, so does he, but he doesn't have that same arm junk like he does. His wheels stick out a little bit on the sides of his legs, but I think that's a good looking design element for him. So like I said, I think he's great. I know a lot of people probably will disagree with me on that. You know, if he were, you know, a little bit taller, you know, Optimus Prime level, then I might, you know, I would consider putting this guy on my classic shelf as my Optimus Prime. But since he's not, can't really, you know, you know, and there is the bigger one that I do have that I'm going to try and part back together, but he's not nearly as good as this one. So, you know, if there's a third party company out there that wants to make this guy bigger without adding on armor, just clone it and make it bigger, I'd probably buy it. Because I really do like this figure. I wasn't a huge fan of the Armada line. Well, I mean, at the time I was. Now I'm not. But I think of the Armada line, this mold has probably aged the best. So that's my question of the day. What figure out of the Armada, or the Unicron trilogy, for that matter, which mold do you think has aged the best? And I know a lot of people are going to say Unicron, but I think up until last summer, he was aging very well. But once Metroplex came out, you know, the idea of having a Unicron on your shelf with Metroplex, you know, a planet being smaller than the city, that to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So yeah, Transformers Armada Deluxe Class Optimus Prime.